Hey, Hope family, welcome to Beyond the Sermon. We are back and we are excited. This is a podcast designed to obviously be able to communicate things that go beyond the message itself. Really excited to be here today with Dan Ramlogan and Greg McFarland. Dan is our Director of Compassion, and Greg is our Executive Pastor of Missions on our church. I'm sure you know their faces well. And we're in a very important series called Life on Mission right now, and there's only so much you can say during the sermon. And so this podcast and this topic today is designed, let's go deeper on issues that we're very, very excited about. And so maybe just starting off again, Dan, Greg, thanks for being here right now. This is good. I'm really excited for your hearts to be known in a fuller way on a topic that you're both are very, very, again, excited about. And I think our people will be super blessed as well. We're excited for conversations here today too. This isn't formal, rigid. We're just really going to have a conversation about these topics that we pray people will really be blessed by. So Life on Mission series, we're a few weeks in now. Let's just have some overall reflections and comments. How are you feeling about it so far? Let's go, Greg. How are you feeling about it so far?
I love it. I love it. Love that we're doing this. It's kind of, for me, a little bit of a culmination of some conviction over the last couple of years, just the opportunity the Lord has given us to steward. You know, there's budgets, there's things like that, but there's people, there's giftedness, there's hearts, there is a time right now that we need to do this. So I love where we're going.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Good. Dan, how about you?
I definitely share that sentiment. There's a growing conviction and a passion around this area. And so it's been amazing to just have this spotlight shone on this area. But especially the idea of, like, the Lord wants us to live uncomfortable lives. And I felt really uncomfortable in all the sermons because,
Me
again,
too, actually.
it's
That's good.
It's been so reinforced.
Wow. Well, I think both of you, in some ways, are probably like, "What took you so long?" Or like, it's about time. Or
Maybe.
Yeah, you're very gracious,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it has been neat to emphasize, and I agree, it has been a convicting time, but also a very exciting time too. I'm very encouraged by the amount of people are telling me stories about how God is using them to life on mission, and both, again, here locally and globally as well. And that's a good lead into what we want to really divide our time with during this podcast, is we want to really emphasize for people, because like maybe Greg set up your desire for this podcast too. Like someone's listening and specifically about, well, some people are called to this, but what do I do to get involved in life on mission, especially missions? Just set it up a little bit what you're hoping people to hear.
Yeah, I love to. I think when we look at the Great Commission, we're seeing make disciples of all nations, right? That's very clear. That is the imperative. But the question is like, well, how do I do that? Like, how do I make, I'm in Burlington, I'm in Oakville, how do I make disciples of all nations? And so we want to take this time to give handles, kind of like, we were talking the other day, the 5G life. I think that is so helpful. There's handles to that, right? You can look at that and you say, what does it look like to be a follower of Jesus Christ? Well, God time makes sense. I need to be abiding. I need to be in God's word. It's gather time. I need to be with his people. So similarly, want to take that idea and give some real clear handles to our church family. This is how we can actually live out the Great Commission. This is how we can make disciples of all nations. So I'd love us to spend some time on that in this podcast.
And then specifically too, just in Matthew 28:19, go therefore make disciples of all nations.
That's right.
And we want the person saying, well, how do I get involved in the all nations part? I'm stuck in Burlington, Oakville, whatever it is.
Right.
But we're going to address that.
That's right.
So why don't we get started? I guess, Dan, anything you want to add to that while we're about to go? Or?
No, I think it was really well said. I think it's so easy for us to get caught up in just the busyness and the idea that the relationships that are safe are the extent to which we should have relationships in this world. And so, again, just being able to focus in on the broader context of what the Lord is calling us to, I think, is so important.
Okay, so let's jump in then, okay? So again, everyone has a part to play. That's what we're saying. Everyone, specifically in global missions and in local expressions of that as well, as we're going to hear today.
That's
so
right.
where do we start first?
Yeah, so I think we start with what probably comes most naturally when we think of go. It's go. I think some people should go. I think some people should go in our church to the nations where the gospel has never been. I think in church life, sometimes we're waiting for people to volunteer, and I think that's okay. I think the Lord stirs hearts and people put up their hand and say, I'm considering this. And I think we want more of that. We want to pray for that. But at the same time, I think we got to get proactive. I think we got to tap shoulders. I think we have to look at people and their character of their lives, their love for Christ, and say, have you considered this? Because the need is so great. The need is so great. So I think that first category is maybe the most obvious, but we could go. Yeah. So maybe, Dan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that on local side. And I've got a few more thoughts on that as well.
On the local side, when we think about compassion, and one of the labels that we've used to just kind of help us is global outreach versus local outreach. And with compassion, it's everyday living. So it's an opportunity, and in many ways, the training ground for us to prepare ourselves to lead our families in a way that maybe is even preparing our young people to go or even to entertain that idea. And so I think of a young lady at our church, Janina, as an example. And again, just understanding labels of sorts. So she's not a goer per se, but the Lord gave her a burden for the homeless people in our community. And she took that burden and started to create these prayer bags that had the Gospel of John, our daily breads, water, some snacks, blankets. And she kept it in her car. And basically, as she drove around Burlington and Oakville, when she saw a homeless person, she gave them this bag. And as word got out around this, and as the need has continued to grow, others have come alongside her and have started to support and get behind this vision of what she's doing. And so, again, not a goer in the global context, but taking steps to go out into our community and to meet a need and to share the gospel in an area where it needs to be shared. And
So she is going in a really beautiful way.
In a really beautiful way.
In her own way too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How would you define, Greg, just going for people who are listening from your standpoint as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love the definition that a missionary, so if we're talking like in the traditional sense, like a missionary is someone who crosses barriers. So they're crossing geographic barriers. They're going somewhere. They're crossing language barriers. They're having to learn a language, and they're crossing cultural barriers. Like they just got to figure out how to live in this new context. And so Robbie just preached on Acts 13, 1-4 this past week. I love that, that idea of the church. What are they doing? They're worshiping, they're praying, they're fasting, and the Holy Spirit is calling, in this case, Paul and Barnabas, so calling specific people to go do a specific task. And so I think as we do that as a church and see more and more sent out, I think that the need is great. If the Joshua Project stats are even remotely accurate, that there's something like 43% of this world is considered unreached. They don't have a Christian friend. They don't know a Christian. There's not a church in their community. They're not going to hear the gospel unless somebody goes. And so, the urgency is real.
Wow.
Yeah.
On that note too, so one of the phrases, like lots of grace around here, right?
Of course,
so whatever.
yeah.
But one of the phrases you would take issue with, and let's talk about that, is that we're all missionaries.
Yes.
Help explain that. So you don't like that phrase. Explain why.
Yeah, I think we're all called to disciple. We're all called to disciple our kids. We're all called to be faithful witnesses where we are. I love the fact that God sovereignly places us where he places us to be witnesses, because we might be the hope for our neighbor who otherwise may not know another Christian. So I love that. But when it comes to missions and missionary, I love clear definitions. I love that, because there's terms like everyone's a missionary, and I get the sentiment of that, and so a lot of grace for that. But I think it can diminish the call on someone's life. And I know we've even said that around here. As parents, we're missionaries, and our kids are a mission field. I get the sentiment. Yeah. I don't know what we're going for, right? Like I know we're like, yes, we have to disciple our kids, but I think there's a unique call that the Lord places on some to go, like he did on Paul and Barnabas in Acts 13. And so, so that's...
Yeah, well, that's super helpful. I hope people are hearing that too, because you're right. As you say that, I'm not going to disagree with you in that sense. And again, we're all sent in one way or another.
That's right.
But then the reality is there are specific people that are called in incredibly beautiful and powerful ways
Set
at
apart.
a cost that we will not know.
That's right.
Unless you kind of do the things. And that's why I think they've been held up over the centuries. I have incredible men and women of God who have gone out at a tremendous sacrifice. So that's really good. That's really good. Okay, so the first category is go.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay here, or do you want to move on to the second one?
Do you have anything else?
Something?
Yeah.
We often think of goers as young people for obvious reasons, with the language, the life, everything
energy
that comes. Exactly. But one thing that's been really interesting that I've been observing in the last couple of years, as we're using business as missions or business for missions to get into closed countries, there have been opportunities for other forms of missionaries, if you will. So I think of midlife missionaries, if I can use that term. The idea that as a young person is going into a country to establish just to be a force for Christ in that area, they need to establish a business. So you're learning a language, you're learning a culture, you're building relationships, you're spreading the gospel, and you're growing a business. What if there were other forms of missionaries that could come alongside them, someone that is in their second career, early retirement, or whatever, that could participate in that missionary work and bring the skills and the experience that they have vocationally to the table. And so, again, we've been seeing a lot of this, and we've even had some members of our church participate at a distance as business mentors to missionaries. And so,
Wow.
it's a beautiful thing.
I think that's a huge opportunity for our church specifically. I look at the makeup of our church. I look at the professionals, the business owners, the executives who have God-given skills, God-given aptitudes, and they can be mobilized for missions. Like they can support missionaries. There's stories. We had a young lady in our church this summer spent 6 weeks in Central Asia. And so she was working in this business internship with a company. So set up by an American who chose to set up on purpose in Central Asia. So it's harder infrastructure, all of that would have been way easier to start in this business in the U.S., but set up in a Muslim majority country on purpose to be a Christian witness. Wow. And so the young lady in our church who was there, her supervisor in this internship was a local that came to faith. And while she was there, got to witness her baptism. So wow. I love that, like that creativity of like business people being like, yeah, I could start this here. God's given me these skills, these aptitudes, the ability to build business, but I'm going to set it up somewhere else for the sake of the gospel.
Wow.
Love that. That's another way to go, kind of non-traditional, but I think for our church, man, there's huge opportunity there. I loved it.
So we're really encouraging our people, like, again, you can be a goer, and it's not just one way.
Yeah,
and not to just close the door on that. Like, would you be open to praying and actually searching what the Lord might have for you? Because maybe you will find a call in your life that is not what you expected. So, okay. So first category is we can be goers. Yeah. And secondly, we can be senders.
We can be senders.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, when I think of these, maybe I'll summarize a little bit too. I love the fact that as we walk through these and people are hearing about these definitions, we can be at least one, if not two, of all of these things. Good. We're not all going to be called to go. We're not all going to be set apart, again, like Acts 13, but we can get behind, So, right away you think financial support. Yep, that's great. Encourage others to go in our church, whether it's short-term or long-term. Prayer, but there's many other ways too. There's many other ways that we can consider being a real sacrificial sender. So, Dan, I know you've got some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that, and I don't know if this fits under this category, but it just came to mind as you were speaking. I was challenged when my kids were younger by one of my mentors. Would you pray that the Lord would choose one of your kids to be sent? And as I thought about that, that's a tough prayer to pray. When we think about our kids and wanting them to grow up and live down the street from us and have access to them and grandkids and everything else. But yeah, I just, that is something I think for all of us as parents, are we willing to pray this prayer?
You should say that. I had heard that one of the greatest hindrances to missionaries going is parents. It's kind of shocking, right? But I get it as a parent. As you say that would be very hard. Yep. We've got a young couple that's getting trained in West Asia right now, and they just left a month ago, Noah and Taylor, and Taylor had sent my wife Debbie a picture of their little son Theo from the airport. He's in his jammies, ready to get on this really long flight. And I looked at that picture and had this moment of, probably from like grandparents' perspective, for the first time ever, and I'm like, the cost of going is significant, and the parents and the grandparents are sending. So, this is the category we're talking about. But there's cost. There's cost to the sender when there's family involved. And so, we have to ask ourselves those hard questions as parents. Would we see our kids go off?
Yeah, and then back to understanding that all of us, again, can be involved in sending. And I think what you summarized there, Greg, is very important too, though. Financial support for these things is a reality. That's wonderful. We want to be generous. We want to have, as part of our giving, lack of a better word, strategy, to be tremendously generous towards sending of missions, the impact for the gospel, obviously. And so when I think about that, prayer is a really, really big deal. We've had multiple prayer meetings in recent months and years specifically on praying for what we're talking about right now, right? We had one just very recently, and seeking to see life on mission across our church, right? Taking that very seriously too. And so there's goers and senders are absolutely needed, because everyone can't go, and they need to be supported by the senders as well. So again, as you're listening right now, just like we're giving categories, as Greg said. There could be one, there could be multiple areas that, I want to in a part, I want to go. And I think I have, in some ways done that, but sending 100%, and so excited to hear kind of what's next on this list as well. So are we good for the sending portion, or do you want to say anything else?
I think I just put a call out to our people to be generous towards sending. I think we're in an exciting season as a church. I think in the years ahead, this might be too bold to say, but one of the ways I've been praying, and some of those mission-minded in our church have been praying, is if the Lord would allow, would we be in a place as a church to effectively and fruitfully send like one missionary, whether it be an individual, a family, or a couple, per year, every year, starting next year.
Wow.
So I said it out loud. So that's
good.
I'm kind of like locked in, but I want that for our church. And so with that, when you think of, again, Noah and Taylor going out, Lord willing, in the next couple of years, we have the bouts that are getting ready to go too. Sending also involves care, so prayers, you said, Robbie, but care, like what does it look like to care for people on the field, and I just have that vision of seeing so much of our church doing that. So, fast forward, Lord willing, 5 years, and we've got, 5 new missionaries on the field, and there's dozens of people in our church that are being sacrificial senders because they're checking in, they're praying for, they're reaching out, they're meeting needs, they're sending things over, they're visiting, and I think it becomes a whole church thing. Wow. So we've talked in the past a bit about like departments and stuff like that. Like, no, this is a whole church effort, so I'm excited for that.
Wow. That's a beautiful vision, man. I really can kind of pick up what you're putting down there too. So yeah, that'd be pretty special. So, and then on a more local basis, or, we were very passionate about church planting. Yep. We just sent off Hope Hamilton.
Totally. Yeah.
So, about 200 people, men, women, children, and like fantastic, right? Fantastic.
Yeah. And sending hurts, right?
And so it does. And that there's so many people involved in that sending mission too. And I know one of the goals we have as a church too is we love to plant one church a year. I mean, that's what Pastor Chris has said that out loud as well. Right. And so it's like, okay, in some ways you're like, can we do, so Lord help us, right? And so, we want to be, not seating capacity, sending capacity, and just continue to multiply and how the Lord will lead us. So any last words on sending?
I think that's why this series is so important, this Life on Mission, because how this is going to happen is through joyful sacrifice.
Yeah, good. Really good.
Catching the vision.
Okay, so I want to be super clear with everyone listening. You can be a goer.
Yep.
You can be a sender. And thirdly, is it mobilizer?
That's right. Okay. You can be a mobilizer. So I need to give credit where this is from. So this is not original thought. So I want to say that right now too.
That's smart.
So Rick Davis, Engage Global, love their ministry. Rick's been up here a few times. He's taught one of the classes in our missions class previously. And we have been, the last couple of years, been sending a team to Minneapolis. He does these weekend trainings. Excellent. I think Dan's going to help organize one coming up in 2026. But it's just good stuff. Yeah. So I'm just sharing what he's shared. So Mobilizer, essentially a mobilizer is a champion for missions in our church. And it's an informal role, but it's somebody excited for missions. They don't see themselves being a goer. I've got a couple examples. I'd love to share one. I know you've got one too, at least. But so when you think of that question again, how do I make disciples of all nations when I'm living here? So there's a sweet man in a church. His name's Gary. And so the last couple of years, we've been heading down to CrossCon. So we're getting 60 or 100 young adults heading down to CrossCon. He is, I love to share this example. So he's making disciples of all nations because he drives a minivan. He drives a minivan. He has 4 or 5 young adults in the back of that minivan. He's caring for them. He's engaging with them. He's having fun with them. These kids are taking in some significant content over these next few, and you just don't know who from these caravans of minivans down to CrossCon will be sent one day. Yep. And so here's a simple way for Gary to serve our church family in this way, to really mobilize others to go on mission. So I love the simplicity of that, because sometimes we think I have to go, or there's just, it's complicated. No, it's these little acts of generosity, to mobilize others. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. Right. I'm so thankful for that story. It helps people capture what you're saying and say, I can do that. I can do that. Yes, you can.
Yep.
Yes, you can. Give up a bit of time, invest, pour. Wonderful. Wonderful. Dan, do you have an example too you want to share?
If I can bring it back to local, give a local example, because this mobilizer role, as you said, it's informal and it applies in so many different dimensions. We have a wonderful woman in our church, Grace, that was inspired with a God-sized vision. Basically, when young people age out of our CAS system, they're just left on their own. And so the vision was to create a transitional home to help these youth that had no place to go, no family, have a place to go, get a gospel foundation, have love and support of a family of sorts. That's a big vision. And she took steps of obedience, and through others that came alongside her, what I like to think of as mobilizers, people that could mentor the young men and women that were coming through these homes, that brought expertise to help find properties, raise support to do this. There's so many people that it took to take something like that, which is a really noble cause and mission, and make it happen. And these are mobilizers. And so,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, excellent. At some point, I want to make sure you have a passion for the faith and work combination. Is that going to come up at all in our conversation today?
You know what? Well, let's talk about this now.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Because this is a growing ministry in our church right now.
It really is. And it's amazing how, before I joined the staff, I was asked to start this initiative. And so it really had nothing to do with compassion or mission when I started. It was like, how can we be effective in the workplace? How can we be effective witnesses? How do you navigate the
Life on mission.
hostile
Life on mission, right?
all of those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But what's been amazing is to see the connection between how the Lord gifts us vocationally, the experiences, the skills, the resources, how all of those things can have a direct tie-in back to compassion and mission.
Yeah, I believe it.
And so that's been really amazing to just journey through that. We have a What God is Doing, Faith and Work edition segment at all of these gatherings.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of that is to actually show how different people are participating in mission and compassion initiatives in a way that directly ties back to their work.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Again, what a massive application for our entire church, basically, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and the example you gave of Grace, that came out of a Faith and Work. I remember attending that one, right? And you profiled her. She shared her passion. So she's a member in a church, loves Jesus, sees this need, gets in motion, but needs help. And so as a result of that, board members, so when you think of people mobilizing ministry, she found board members through the Faith and Work night. It was just so good, right? It just engaged our church on mission, locally. It was so good.
So people in our church, again, may not be aware of the Faith and Work Ministry Initiative. Just real quick, how do they find out more?
So these are quarterly gatherings.
Okay.
So we'll get together, Lord willing, in November again to kick it off. It's for anyone now. So if you work in a secular work environment, we'd love to see you come out, be encouraged and equipped.
Yeah. So pastors aren't allowed, is that what you're saying?
As guests.
I'm not allowed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I could just come and learn. So yeah.
You're not allowed to talk.
But I respect, I have so much respect for the part of our community that's seeking to live life on mission where they are at work and living at a cost, in a sense, going, and they're being, anyways, it's really special. So thank you for your leadership. Alvin Lowe has been really involved in that as well, right? So really neat. All right, so if you're listening and you want to get involved in that, then you know how to do that now. So
yeah, I got one more on Mobilizer before we move on. And so what we've really tried to build out the last year or two is a sending pathway. So again, when particularly a young person raises their hand and says, like, my heart is stirred, I'm trying to figure out, am I supposed to go? What's next? So what's that pathway look like? And so that's taken some definition. And so where a mobilizer plays a role on that, and Lady Heather in our church, so sweet. She's also on our missions leadership team, just highly influencing. You never see her, but highly influencing what we're doing in missions right now. So I love that. But she's investing time with young ladies in particular in our church who are trying to discern the call. So if we think of our pathway going from discerning to I've discerned, now I'm preparing. So we've got some on the preparing stage, but we have several who are still trying to discern. And Heather's meeting with several young ladies on a monthly basis, really just investing in their hearts, their character, listening, praying for. It's such a gift. And so I see as the Lord continues to stir hearts for more and more to go on mission, that mobilizers like this will come around, guys and girls, and just support them in their preparation to go. So I love it.
Mobilizers sound pretty special.
Yes.
Yeah. Like what a neat role, and often you don't see. And that's what you're communicating, right?
That's right.
So good to be aware that these people are there having huge impact and fruit.
Significant.
So again, you're listening right now and you're like, man, I didn't even know that was a category. And you're like, that completely fits my gift set or passions. And it's okay, let's go. A way that you can get involved in making disciples to the nations is by being a mobilizer, in simple ways and maybe some profound ways as well. So, okay, just to recap, again, I want everyone to be on the same page.
Yeah.
You can be a goer.
Yeah.
This is like make disciples of all nations, globally, locally. But you can be a goer, sender, mobilizer.
Yeah.
And next, you can be an
Intercessor.
intercessor.
We can
Let's
pray.
go.
So this
Okay.
is one we can all do, right?
Yeah.
Every single one of us. We got to be praying. We got to be praying for these things. I love this quick plug right now. Starting next month, before our churchwide prayer meeting at 6:30, we're going to do a quick 30-minute missions prayer meeting. Every month, we'll be profiling people that we support. We'll be profiling people who we pray we'll be sending. Church-to-church partnerships around the world, and we'll be praying. So it'll be simple, it'll be brief, and then we'll all get together in the larger prayer meeting. So
Okay, you're going to meet in a separate room then?
family room.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to meet in the family room
Cool.
for that. Yeah.
6:30 sharp, I bet, right?
6:30 sharp.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So, it's simple, but it also creates exposure so people know.
Yeah.
A lot of times in a church like ours, it's like, well, who do we support? You know,
Right.
what are we doing in missions right now? This is a great way to learn about that too. So come out and pray, but come out and learn what we're doing.
Wow,
So,
you hear that, everyone? 6:30 before the
There you
next
go.
prayer meeting, which is coming up soon.
it is.
So yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Intercessors.
Yes.
Isn't that a massive part of everything we're seeking to do?
Dan, I love what you did with this Unreached app. Maybe you should share that. This was pretty cool.
So this comes from the Joshua Project as well, the Unreached app, Unreached of the Day. And so effectively every day they profile a different people group that is unreached. And for a season, we did this with our small group. So we all had the app, we all had our WhatsApp group, and we were committed to praying for the unreached of the day. And it's just, again, if we believe in the power of prayer, this is such an easy and powerful thing that we can be doing. Every single one of us.
Wow. And then we think too of, even coming up in this series, Matthew 9, right? Like the solution, the plan of God, because the laborers are few, is prayer.
Yeah.
And, for centuries, that's been the call of the church, is to intercede to the Lord of the harvest, because it says in the text, he is the one who sends, and it's his harvest.
That's right.
So, we can't grow anything, and we don't ultimately send, right? And God is the one who sends, and we are the one maybe that can participate in identifying and supporting. But prayer is the plan there.
Prayer is the plan. Prayer is how you make disciples of all nations.
Yeah,
you can sit in your home, in this part of town, and you can pray. I'd love just to read a quote. Like this quote, when I first heard it, I found it excellent. So this is a quote by a guy, his name is J.O. Fraser. He was a missionary to China in the early 20th century, so kind of late 1800s, early 1900s. He says this. He says, I'm feeling more and more that it is, after all, just the prayers of God's people that call down blessing upon the work, whether they are directly engaged in it or not. Paul may plant, Apollos water, but it is God who gives the increase. And this increase can be brought down from heaven by believing prayer. I love that, by believing prayer, whether offered in China or England. England was where he was sent from. If this is so, then Christians at home can do as much for foreign missions as those actually on the field. What I covet more than anything else is earnest, believing prayer. I believe it will only be known on the last day how much has been accomplished in overseas missions by the prayers of earnest believers at home. Isn't that great?
It is really good. And for me, what sticks out to that, it's a robust, rock solid theology of prayer. I think, like, again, when you read that, and I'm like, I agree. And I think a lot of people listening would say, I agree, but then the failure to live. So there's a theological disconnect where we say we believe and what we actually do. And that's why, so few Christians actually pray hard, and, our prayer meeting at our church is very abnormal, praise God. But think of all the people that can continue to engage in this. Because, do we really believe prayer works? Well, it's hard to find a genuine Christ follower that would say, no, prayer doesn't work. Right? But then how few of us are actually praying on a regular basis, like really interceding like that. Even Matthew 9 again, pray earnestly, pray earnestly, right? There's a fervency before that, believing God hears and he will answer. So we got to keep growing in that all the time, right? Prayer's hard. Prayer's hard. Yeah. It works though.
It does. We're going to have another prayer meeting coming up sometime in the next month or two on the persecuted church. Yes. So there's just another opportunity to pray and pray for faithful men and women who are in other contexts where it's very costly to do ministry, and then it's very costly to come to Christ. Right. You think of these unreached people groups. They're unreached for a reason, because it's hard. And when they come to Christ, it gets harder. Their eternity is secure, which is awesome. but it's hard. There's cost, and so we're going to be praying through some of that coming up.
Excellent.
So,
Yeah. So maybe put down Prime Video, pick up prayer.
There
right?
you go.
I
There
just
you
use
go.
Prime because it starts with a P.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
It's whatever.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Put down the remote and pick up prayer.
Yeah.
So that would be awesome. Lord, lead us in that. I mean, what a battle that is. We're trying so hard to be a praying church, and not just a church that prays, but a praying church. And what better thing to pray about than being, disciples for Jesus Christ, life on mission. We're all very passionate about that. So
Nice.
good.
Nice.
This is why I love how you've been challenging us to have that list of 5, because prayer does not happen accidentally.
Right.
We
Good.
need that plan, right? And so whether it's that list of 5 or, you have a different theme, a different focus every day of the week, or whatever the case may be, we just need to be proactive in it, right?
Yeah, and finding ways. You're right. You're finding ways to engage. I'll pray here, and then I mean, prayer walks. I'm growing, loving prayer walks. Again, you're moving, you're there. Setting up times, whatever it is. But yeah, we got to be super intentional about that too. So yeah, by yourself, family, friends at the church, as a church as a whole. So yeah, and interceding for these things. Oh Lord, help us to grow in this. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on this one?
I think we're ready to go to the next.
You want to summarize for us then, Greg? I think it's good to repeat everything we're saying.
Yeah. So we got goers.
Yeah.
Again, and so maybe I'll just highlight this too, because I kind of skipped over it, but I love this saying. I don't know where it originates, but the church is the means and end of missions. The church is the means and end of mission. Is the church that equips, that sends. It is the church. And what's the goal of missions? It's a church. It's to see a church established where there is no church. And so I love that. So goers, senders, mobilizers, and we just talked about intercessors, and now we're going to talk about welcomers, what it means to welcome. And this one's I think this one's really interesting for us in the GTA. So Toronto is said to be one of the most multicultural cities in the world, and so as a suburb of Toronto, we certainly see that here. I think it was 2016. We did a survey in our church, and there was over 40 languages represented just in our church. And I know in the market, I think there's 17 languages, varied languages that are coming, and so we have so much different multiculturalism, which is beautiful, and the opportunity for the gospel. And so this is so on point for us as a church right now. Dan, maybe you share about you're doing some great stuff here. I'd love to hear about it.
Well, I'd love to start by just giving a plug to the market that, we have this ministry at our church and we invite our community in. And to your point, it's such a diverse community. We have a variety of ethnicities, religious groups that are coming here, and we just have the opportunity to love them. So of course we provide the food support, but we also want to be building relationships with them. And so the plug is for all of us, we can be coming into our building and reaching the nations in a very meaningful way just by serving in the market. So we'd love to see more of our church family taking advantage of that and gaining that training.
Yeah, do you know off the top of your head how many families we're serving on a monthly basis?
Yeah, we easily exceed over 350 families a month.
Really? Wow, it's growing.
Yeah, it's growing.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, the need is great. And so it's just so thankful for the generosity of our church in supporting
and
this.
we had that, the Christmas banquet we did. Was it Christmas time where we had internationals?
Yeah, we, so at Christmas, we did a market Christmas event. So we invited the families of all of our market guests to come. So as I mentioned, 350 plus families, all of them in our lobby gathering for a Christmas celebration of sorts. So we had over 700 people that were in attendance there.
Yeah, wow.
And then as a part of our program, they were able to experience this wonderful Christmas drama from our team here and a gospel message. And I had the opportunity to be at the front of this and looking out at our seats and seeing such a different audience than we would have ever experienced.
Wow.
And it was a beautiful thing.
Wow.
I had the privilege of standing at the back as that was happening, and Dan gave such a great gospel message there. But you could visibly see, these are not Christians, right? And it was just such an opportunity. Like, where do you get the opportunity to have Muslims and Hindus and others and atheists? Just they come to they're coming to the church, which is quite remarkable. So the opportunity there is huge. And I think the reality too is whether it's the streets we live on, we're so multicultural now, and so looking at that opportunity, I know with the love your neighbor, there's the portion of that where there's going to be a little bit of teaching and training on even reaching Muslim neighbors in Islam. We're going to have an actual class on that in the winter semester at the Institute, but maybe you could speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but in a week's time, we're doing this Love Your Neighbor training event. And the whole idea behind this is, to your point, there's only so much you can do on a Sunday. And we sit under such rich teaching, but at some point you got to put down the training manual and you got to get in the game. And the whole idea behind Love Your Neighbor is really doing that, taking steps to get us in the game, or for those of us that are already in the game, just to elevate it. And so that's really exciting. And the fact that we have so many Muslims coming into our neighborhoods as coworkers, as neighbors, what an amazing opportunity. And so how do we approach them and build relationships with sensitivity, care, the love of Christ?
Yes.
That's what we're going for in this. So excited
to
for
be
that.
welcomers.
Yeah.
Right? In the
welcomers.
name of Jesus.
Yes.
Exactly.
Now, we also did an event for international students, yes?
Yeah.
Can you tell a little bit about that? Or
I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah. And
That's
this
welcoming,
was
right?
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
the fact that where we're situated, we have McMaster and Mohawk to our west, we have Sheridan and U of T Mississauga to our east. Like, we have all of these schools. And within those schools, we have international students that have come here, have no family, are looking for community. The vast majority of them want to stay in Canada. And in order to do that, when they graduate, they have to find a job in their area of study to get their permanent residency. Right. So we had this idea of creating this career connections dinner, because their felt need is they want to make connections, they want to network, they want to understand, how do I work here, many of them. And this is where the Faith and Work Initiative was really handy, because we extended an invitation out to those within that audience. Would you be mentors, table hosts at this event? And our 20s ministry, or our young adults ministry. So we had this event, Career Connections Dinner, international students coming from these different schools. We set up the table based on their area of study, so engineers, medicine, computer science, and so forth. And we had professionals in that area sitting at the table who are also believers, and young people that were studying in the area. And it was quite simply that. Like, let us just be warm welcomers. Let us love them. How can we support them? How can we build relationships? And the outcome from that were some really meaningful relationships that have extended well beyond that event, that are still taking place today.
Wow.
We've heard of stories of these international students being invited into people's homes for dinner, dessert nights, going for hikes in the summer, like all of these amazing things.
Wow.
And at
So
the
it's
end of the
working.
day, it's
Hey?
working.
It's working. And there's more, right? There's more opportunities. There's the organization Hamilton that we're working with that helps
helping
coordinate
international students.
Yeah, so they help coordinate, and some of our churches done this already. So they coordinate international students getting connected with people at Hope to have them in for a meal around
Thanksgiving and Christmas and
Easter, right?
Yes.
So again, coming from different backgrounds and religions that might know nothing about Christmas, and so you get to invite them in, you get to share why, And so I can think of a young couple in our church that did this with some Southeast Asian folks, and they went on to the husband went on to play squash frequently with it, like just built relationships, so like genuine friendship, right? Not just kind of a one and done. And that's the opportunity for the gospel,
precious.
and that's pretty sweet. So we are gonna be promoting this, right, in the future, these opportunities.
Absolutely.
And love to see our church family embrace that even further.
Wow.
Yeah,
and I think there are people listening from our church right now, like they're getting very excited. They didn't know about these things and just about opportunities in general. So obviously getting in touch with you is no problem. If they want to reach out to you, right? You quickly say your email.
Yeah. You can find me on the website.
Okay, there you go, Dan Ram Logan. Okay,
DRamLogan at hopeoakville.ca.
Okay, so and please do that again if you're like watching right now and you're. Take the initiative. If the Lord's speaking to you right now, don't wait. Send Dan an email. He'd love to hear from you. Yes,
for sure.
And of course, Greg, people reach out to you too. You're overseeing a whole bunch of stuff in our church, including a huge heart for missions, especially global missions. Right. So.
That's right.
Yeah, so they can obviously reach out to you too.
Yep, missions at hopeoakville.ca.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent, excellent, exciting.
Wonderful. That's great, and that's it. I mean, that's it from those 5 real clear handles on how we can make disciples of all nations, both here and around the world. Love that. And I was sharing a little bit earlier, just kind of my prayer for sending, and as I think about that, as we get close to wrapping up here, is just what would it look like if Hope Oakville was really a prolific sending church? Just that idea of commissioning an individual or a couple in front of our church to go take the gospel where it's never gone, and then what if we did it 12 months later? What if we did it 18 months after that? What if we did it 6 months after that? Like, just that this becomes normalized, that we are to live a life on mission. Again, the expression of that, we've heard all kinds of different examples of that on this chat, but that's a prayer, and that's something I get excited about. So.
Well, the Lord's moving, bro. So you need to be encouraged about that. You know, in a way that, I mean, we've been here since the very beginning, Greg, right? And so it's 22 years, whatever. And I think we're seeing the Lord work in a way that is unique. You know, I'm thankful for our history. There's been awesome seasons. Yeah. But this feels like it's a new season.
It does.
You know, it always comes with a cost. There's lots of spiritual opposition. That's to be expected.
Yeah.
And in some ways, we're really excited about that because it means that good things are happening. But yeah, I mean, I'm filled with faith. I love our team. I love the vision and leadership, you know, by both of you. It's massive for our church too. I also want to say this too, like, we have precious people at Hope Oakville.
We really do.
Like, my goodness, like sometimes, like, I talk to them, especially right now too, and they're coming up and saying, Robbie, I'm doing that, and the Lord's leading me this, and I'm listening to them, and I'm like, man, I need to be more like you. Like, and I mean that. I'm not, that's not false humility. That is absolutely sincerely true. I'm like, wow, there are so many beautiful people in this church that deeply desire to be used of Christ and are being used of Christ, like in very special ways. Most of it's not seen. Praise God, right? You know, the Lord who sees in secret will reward you. That's all over Scripture. And that's, so keep doing it. Like loved ones, just keep doing it. And yet, if we can organize, if we can encourage one another, we can share our stories, if we can, you know, help others to see a potential and vision to make your life count, steward your life, seek first the kingdom. That's so good, man, because what I know is I'm not getting any younger. Are you guys getting younger? I'm not. And so life, it's going by here a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, like, this is going to be over pretty soon. So, you know, what lasts and what's the point and why are we even here? So I think about that a lot. I think the Bible tells us to think about that a lot. And there's no better way to spend our lives in life on mission for Jesus Christ. God is on mission, and he has saved us to allow us to sit around and do nothing. No, he saved us to send us. And so we've heard that loud and clear. Greg, thanks for being here. Thanks for your life, your leadership, all that's happening through missions and beyond. And then Dan, thanks for your life, heart, and leadership in this too. You guys are really being used in a special way. And I pray you will see an influx of people, like dozens and dozens and dozens of people that are banging down your door saying, I want to be in too. So that would be awesome. So Hope family, hope you're encouraged here. Again, Life on Mission, this Beyond the Sermon podcast. Excited to bring more of these to you so we can go beyond the sermon and dive deep into certain aspects that will greatly enrich our lives for Jesus Christ. Hey, listen, you are loved and sent.